My name is Travano, and I'm your host for the Method and Thought podcast, where we will be talking about growth and interviewing people hoping to gain a different perspective and to inspire success and constant growth. This podcast was made to create a community of people helping people. So subscribe to this channel for more content. Enjoy the episode. To the Method and Thought podcast. My name is Travano, and our very esteemed guest, Jason Towns, a very close friend of mine.
Hello.
So, Jason, tell us about yourself.
Man, I am a born and bred Atlanta native, which if you've ever been to Atlanta and you met somebody from Atlanta, kudos to you, because it's not a bunch of us around here. But born and bred Atlanta, man. I've been in production, video production, audio production, live event production for 18 years now. Holy crap. And video post-production, photography, I've been doing all of that for the past decade plus. I'm married, my dad. I have 2 sons. They're very active, and growing up fast is, I don't know what, man. That's my life, man. That's my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, this episode is based on mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
At least I'd like to dedicate this to mentorship, but we'll see which direction it goes.
Okay.
Who was the biggest influence in your life and why?
Biggest influence, I'm gonna say my dad. I've had mentors for just about every phase of life. So growing up, being in athletics, I ran track, but primarily my thing was basketball. And the people that impacted me the most with basketball is 3 people: Coach David Noel, Coach Desmond Mitchell, and Coach Nate King. The 3 of those people, they believed in me more than anybody else. Really pushed me into leadership and not necessarily settling for an assigned role, but understanding how everything flowed. Coach Noel was the one who taught me about being a guard. He's like, you're a point guard. You're the guy on the floor that's supposed to know everybody's position, everybody's role. And when somebody's out of place, you lead them back into place.
Right.
So he said, this isn't just basketball. This is life. This is leadership. And at 14 years old, I'm like, whatever. But I see that, like, certain things that they said to me over, the course of, I started playing with Coach Noel when I was 13, I think. So from 13 to 21, dealing with these people, a lot of the things that they imparted in me, I still carry to this day.
Oh, that's crazy.
But my dad, though, for every phase of life, has been the most influential person. Always supportive, always being a demonstration of what manhood is. Accepting responsibility, accountability, celebrating your wins, but taking an L and knowing how to take an L gracefully. And, if you're going to have a moment, cool, have a moment, brush your shoulders off and get back to work. That's kind of the epitome of my dad. If that sounds like some military rhetoric, my dad's retired Army. That, makes any sense to anybody.
It makes sense because my father, he's a Green Beret in the Caribbean.
Okay.
So I understand. I understand.
Yeah, you get some principles. Yeah.
I wouldn't say he was the biggest influence because there were just some things happening in like our family at the time. For his job, he was traveling a lot, and we understand the situation.
Yeah.
But me growing up, I had to, I guess, lean on other father figures.
Okay.
Until he was back.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I really didn't have a really personal relationship with my father until he really got back.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because he would come back for like a year and then he's gone for like 6 months. Come back for like 2 months and then he's gone for a year. So it was always like that growing up. And we would have conversations and, there's never no ill will or no bad blood or anything like that.
Yeah.
But the one thing I learned from him is the type of leader he was.
Okay.
Seeing how he led people where he worked.
Okay.
And it was one thing that he always told me, and it's probably the only thing that I could like just like up to this day carry with me, and that's basically to be decisively right or be decisively wrong.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be in between because now you're doubting yourself.
Okay.
So how I interpreted that is, if I'm wrong, I'm all in on that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know I'm wrong, but I'm all in on the decision that I made.
Yeah.
And if I find out that I'm wrong, I have to be willing to accept the consequences that come behind that.
Right.
And obviously it's vice versa.
Right.
So with that being said, I mean, like, tell us about the impact of the influences of your childhood or your teenage years. Like, how did that like help you become the man that you are today?
Yeah. The biggest thing was demonstration. My dad is not by any means perfect, but he was always the person who was willing to give the best version of himself in whatever scenario he was in. So I grew up in church primarily. My dad was a youth pastor for 10 years, but he says this, I don't really remember this, but growing up as a kid, I'm an athletic kid. My uncle introduced me to golf when I was like 11 or 12. And it was always this thing of, we're going to play golf on the weekend. We're going to play golf on the weekend. Well, church happens on the weekend. So my dad worked a full-time job. And when he wasn't doing full-time job stuff, we were at the church, we were doing things, which was cool because I had community. But the instance that I just wanted to be a kid with my dad, go to the golf course, hit some golf ball, whatever, he was always busy. It was always something. I said to him, when are we ever going to have our time where we could just go to the golf course? We could just be us. And I'm thinking, I don't remember this, but I'm just trying to channel that thought right now of, man, you always doing something. And the something that you're doing is always impacting somebody else. What about me? And it made me feel selfish to a degree. It almost made me feel performative because whenever my dad was around, of course, I want to impress him. Like, I'm trying to be the best version of me in every scenario. And it doesn't help that I'm competitive. I already want to beat everybody. But I'm trying to be the best version of me just because my dad is there. And he said something to me one day. I was playing rec basketball, and this dude was in my head. He had me bent. And Dad said, "Hey, are you having fun?" And I was like, right now, no, I'm not. I really want to trip this dude and just watch him face plant on the floor. And my dad was like, "Okay, stop. Like, if you're not having fun, you need to sit down. This game is, of course, it's about competition. It's about camaraderie, but this is about fun. You're a leader on this floor. And if you're not having fun and everybody's looking at you not having fun, then nobody is going to perform to the best of their capability. Go out here, give it everything you got, in spite of what this dude is doing. Give it everything you got. Have fun. Change the whole course." At that point in time, I mean, I'm still hyper competitive. Like, I still want to beat this guy. But at a point, I'm like, you know what, dude? Do your thing. Do whatever it is you're going to go for it. But right now, y'all, we're just about to run. We're about to have some fun. We're going to make some stuff up. And I think we lost, but it changed the course of that entire experience. So from that point going forward, we were like, yo, we ain't going to take this joint too seriously. I mean, let's go out here. Everybody do their best. But, this isn't NBA auditions at 15 years old. We're going to play basketball. So let's go play basketball. Let's have fun. Let's make this thing the best that it can be. Yeah, we only lost one more game that season. It changed the course of things. Just a mindset shift of stop taking the weight of other people's words so heavily on the impact of your life. That dude got a direction, but you can't buy into his direction for your life. You have to go your own way. Define your own path. Or follow the path of someone else. But if you're going to do that, like your dad would say, do it decisively. Go with confidence. My mentor in production, his name is Jamel Ware. And when he was teaching me to edit, Jamel, he said, I can't remember context, but I remember him saying, if you do something, do it confidently. Whether right or wrong, go with confidence. Because if you have confidence, people will follow you. It's like, well, oh, okay.
Oh, I just learned something. Learned something
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And if you think about it, you see some people who are dead wrong in life, but they dead wrong with confidence and swag. And it's like, because you know you're wrong. You know this is backwards. But
Basically.
I kind of, I'm kind of with you because you're so confident about it. You know,
Maybe he
that's
sees
why how that
something
works.
we don't see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's wild how confidence sometimes will speak measurably louder than fact.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think I'm leaning differently on this one.
Okay.
But going back to fathers, I think there isn't enough conversation about the impacts of being a father, or the impacts that your father had on you.
Mm-hmm.
And not just for male children, not just for boys, but also for girls. It's I can't really. I'm trying to figure out how to word it,
Mm-hmm.
but mothers grow children up in a certain way, but fathers do it differently.
Yeah.
So you always kind of see a father being more tough on his boys and showing more love to his girls, and I think that's by design. Naturally, that's by design. And with women, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
They show more love to the boys, and they be tough on the girls.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like men are an integral part of the home, and a lot of issues that we are facing is because we have a lack of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you want to touch on the importance of fatherhood and dads being in the home.
Yeah. Yeah. So, personal story. I got married at 23. I was divorced by 25. My oldest son is the product of that marriage, and it was a stretch of maybe 2, almost 3 years where I didn't see him. And this wasn't any fault of his. It was me and his mother being too bent on being right and proving points and he was the collateral damage in the process. And instead of me putting my guard down, putting the weapons down, not spewing venom, and saying, all right, you know what, you got whatever qualm that you got. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about this kid. The reason that I ultimately decided to get divorced, I filed for divorce in our marriage. The reason I decided that is because our relationship was toxic. And I said to myself one day, I cannot be a good example to this kid being in this toxic relationship and trying to demonstrate what good habits are for men, what responsibility and accountability is, because just nature of this relationship, I'm not demonstrating it. And I can't demonstrate it in this environment because it's not the type of breeding ground for it. Right. So I had to separate myself from it. It was tough. It hurt. My ex was hurt for a while. I was hurt. The biggest thing that I wanted to do was just be a dad. And I felt like she was stripping that from me, but she felt that I was taking other things from her. And in the middle of it is Braylon, and he's innocent. It's not his fault, but I mean, he also has this sense of resilience that's built in him that I'm almost certain was developed a little bit in that time frame, where I tried very hard not to be malicious in front of him. I never say anything bad about his mom. Never have. Not in front of him. Sorry, I have before, but not in front of him. But I tried to be the best possible version of manhood that I can for him. Now, fast forward that he's 13 now, and he wrote me a note in a card, and I keep it on my desk, and I read it from time to time because he's in Birmingham. I'm in Atlanta. We don't see each other physically face to face as much as we would like to, but I can tell that he watches, he listens, he pays attention to the things that I specifically do as his dad, because he wrote in that card how much of an influence I was on him. And he thanked me for being a great influence on him. I looked at that card, tears welled up. It was, I keep it. It's my reminder every day for both my boys. For them to know, first of all, that I'm there for them. Even if we're separated physically, we cannot be separated any other way. I'm still your dad. I will go to whatever extent I have to for y'all. So there's that. And then there's I want to be the best influence of what positive and negative life circumstances can give you and how you can work through them so that when you experience them, you don't feel like you got hit by a truck. You can say, man, this sucks. I dealt with it. I can deal with it. I might not know what to do in this moment, but I know somebody I can call. Let me talk to my dad real quick. And I'll stop whatever. Hey, sometimes it's going to be a situation where you just got to walk through the mud, man. It's going to suck. It's going to suck for a couple minutes. Get past that couple minutes, and then it'll be better.
Yeah, that was powerful. For me, it was, like I mentioned before, I guess trying to lean on somebody else, another father figure. It didn't always work out. And it kind of led me into this weird space.
Okay.
Where I just started doing stuff. And now that I look back, I think I did it to be noticed.
Okay.
For the intention of it. So I guess you can say for a stretch, I was like this terrible kid. I wasn't in a gang. I was like a gang on my own. Kind of thing. Like I was like I didn't have it. It felt like I didn't have a purpose. Like I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to find it.
Okay.
Like I didn't have a role model to latch onto. So I was just in limbo. And I think that's the best way I can kind of express that. And I'm not blaming my father by no means. Because there's things that he's done that's taken our family to, amazing heights.
Mm-hmm.
But it is just at that time, he had to do what he had to do. And there were consequences to that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I, as well as my other siblings, were consequences of that. We all went through something during that time frame. It just so happens that I'm the oldest boy. I got 2 sisters and I got a little baby brother.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just my mother. She's also a teacher. And she does sports after school.
Okay.
So it's a lot of pressure like around her. If I do something wrong because I went to the same school, they go to her. She's already dealing with like 100 kids in a day. So to deal with me, outside of that, it was a lot. Obviously, I didn't know that then.
Mm-hmm.
But to get back to my point, I was just in this weird space, and it was like I just felt empty.
Yeah.
So everything that happened to me, I blamed something for.
Okay.
Not only did I blame something or someone for it, I attacked it.
Okay.
I wanted to get rid of it. So if somebody said something negative to me and it hit me the wrong way, it was a fight.
Mm.
And it was a brutal fight. Like things were bad. Then I have a cousin, his father died at a young age. He was living with my grandmother. He was also in that same phase.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have a role model to really look up to.
Okay.
And so I just kind of latched on to him and he latched on to me. And then at some point we were just like kind of running the streets without knowing that we were running the streets.
Yeah.
But everybody had like a level of fear for us because they knew what we were capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until, I would say maybe 3 years out of high school, I guess it just clicked. Like I realized like I didn't want to be that person anymore.
Okay.
And I can't really put a finger on what gave me the inspiration or the motivation to make that change. But it was like it just happened overnight. Like I wanted to succeed.
Okay.
And so there was a brief stint where I actually became a police officer, which up to this day I regret doing. I have stories, like crazy stories about that, and just the whole like court system and how it works. And for those who don't know, I'm originally from the Bahamas. I moved here in Atlanta in 2018 after being married to my beautiful wife, and I'm enjoying it. I have a podcast. I have two businesses. I'll highlight those in a later date. Um, this was actually one of the guys who hired me in my first job here in the United States. So I felt it fitting for this to be the first, for him to be the first person I interviewed for the podcast. But back to what I was saying, I don't know when that switched, but now everything is just kind of in my brain. I don't want to be the negative influence. I want to be the person of positivity. So, like from you've known me, have I ever shown you anything negative?
Absolutely not.
Everything I've talked about has been positive. If I had a problem with somebody, I would pull them aside and talk to them about that problem.
Which I admire.
And that is completely different than what I was 3 years prior to that.
Okay.
3 years prior to that, I was on the streets. I was on the corner with my cousin. We had some things.
Okay.
We had some things, and we were doing some things that we weren't supposed to be doing. And I don't regret it.
Okay.
It wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't regret it because it taught me a lot. That experience taught me a lot. But also, I feel like being a role model is more important.
Yeah.
So the older I got, the more it made sense. I started teaching people back at home before I moved here. Okay. Then I met you and Mike, and you guys started teaching me certain things that I didn't know. And I took that information and I started teaching other people. So now I have, it's like a few guys who are basically products of myself, but also products of you. Like leadership is such a, it's a term that you can't take lightly.
Yeah. Very
because
true.
Being a leader is, to me, the equivalent of being a father. To an extent. When you really think about it in that context.
Yeah.
You can't lead somebody that you don't understand. Leadership, I kind of look at leadership the same way you would look at fatherhood. You have to understand the person. And like I can't really explain because I don't have children.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to develop the bond to be a leader to someone.
Yeah.
You have to like take them in as your own.
Yeah.
And then you have to make sure that they get it.
Yeah. There's this unique element that comes with fatherhood. And this is something that I've known from having a kid in my house 24/7 and for 12 or 13 years of my son's life, us having a distant relationship. Influence goes a long way. And there are certain characteristics that are going to come to you by nature, by biology, right? And they're good and bad. I'm a little bit of an anxious soul, right? And I noticed that in my kids, especially my youngest. He has like this weird thing about test taking. I felt the same way. I'm so scared of getting something wrong that sometimes inaction feels better than a wrong answer. It's terrible, terrible ideology. And I can tell him all the time, hey, I know what you're dealing with. Do this different thing. Or I can show him when I'm looking at a situation and I'm saying, all right, I don't want to do this. I really don't. I feel like I'm screwed up, but we got to pick something. So I'm going to pick this. I don't know what the consequences of it are going to be yet, but I'm hoping for the good ones. This is where my dad comes back into play all the time. My dad would always say, every decision has consequences. Some are good or some are bad. You will know up front sometimes whether or not you're walking into a hornet's nest. If you choose to walk into the hornet's nest, you're going to get stung. Deal with it. If you choose to avoid the hornet's nest, you might not get stung. You got to deal with that too. But you have to decide at some point in time to go past the hornet's nest. You can't just stay in one place. You have to continue to progress. Everything will come. It's like how David, for Bible scholars, David described in the book of Psalms and Psalm 100, where he's talking about the valley of the shadow of death. You got to go through it. Like there isn't a way to escape around the valley. So you have two options. A valley geographically is situated between two hills. I can either go up another hill to avoid the valley, but at some point in time, I'm going to have to go down. So I'm going to hit a valley experience. I just have to pick which one I want to go through. So I can choose to avoid situations, or I can say, okay, again, this is going to suck for a couple minutes, but let me deal with this up front. Because if I deal with it up front, then the back end will likely yield me a consequence that will be better than what I just experienced. So I will either learn something from it, I'll gain knowledge from it, I'm going to be a better influence for it. And there are even situations where you can make some really crappy decisions and deal with some crappy consequences and still come out of it better. And it just determines within yourself which route you're going to take.
Right.
You know, before we had GPS on phones.
No, you are showing your age.
Yeah. I am old and not old at the same time. Before GPS on phones, I remember printing MapQuest directions.
Wow.
And MapQuest, for all graciousness, MapQuest was not good. So I lived on the south side of Atlanta. I played basketball everywhere, had friendships everywhere, had a friend that was on the very north side of Atlanta. I know nothing about this neighborhood. So I'm supposed to meet up with her. We're supposed to go out with some folks. I don't know where I'm going. So I print MapQuest directions. I'm like, okay, cool. I hit the first 6 steps and I'm straight. I get to step 7. I'm like, what? Where's this? I don't know. Ain't no street signs. It's getting dark. I don't see a street light. And to be a kid from the city, when you're in the suburbs and it's getting dark, warning bells start going off. Yeah. So
there's not much, light poles or anything like that in those areas.
Yeah. So it's I'm crazy. At the point now where I'm like, I don't know if
maybe I should turn around.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to fool with this. You know what I'm saying? Ultimately, figure out where I went wrong. So I had to backtrack all the way, like 3 steps back, and I had to go forward and do it again. And when I backtracked and went forward and did it again, I'm like, oh, okay. I missed a step rushing in haste, just trying to get to what I wanted to get to way before I should have been there. So that's another space in which you can have that influence that's either good or bad. And you can have people who are going to take you to a place that you probably really shouldn't be well before you should be there. But you can take from that experience either the good of that experience or the bad. And you'll come into kind of intersections where you have to decide, am I going to go this route that's easy, it's comfortable, it's convenient, it's fun, it's enticing, it's attractive? Or am I going to go the route where I know in the long run this is going to be better for me? Might not be as fun. It's not going to be the immediate gratification that I'm looking for. But I know down the road I'm going to be better for it. When I became a father, I started making the long road decisions way more. Beforehand, it was all about instant gratification. I want what I want right now. And I had to shift that because I knew at some point in time, y'all are going to look at me and you're going to either think that I'm a good dude or I'm a bucket full of crap. And I would much rather y'all lean on the side of me being a good dude. So it was tough. It was some tough years, but I'd much rather lean to be that influence of something positive versus chancing you looking at me as an influence in your life, but a negative one.
Right.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to fathers when it comes to, I guess, raising children?
Presence. Be present. Being present doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be physically in their space all the time. There's something that you hit on earlier. It's knowing who your kids are. It's the same as leadership. It's like knowing who your staff is. When we worked together, I know who was good at what. So it was easy to say, hey, Adam, you take this. Eric, you take this. Trevano, take this. Aaron, take this. Done. That was life. Because I knew as soon as you had a thing and that's your wheelhouse, I don't have to think about it no more. I can go to the next thing. That made so much more sense. One, because it was empowering for you, but at the same time, you now have all the tools and essentials to be as successful as you can in this space. And surrounding you with people who are like-minded helped you to learn other things. So it wasn't just you had this particular thing that you're responsible for. You're in the presence of Aaron. You're in the presence of Adam, who can show you the things that they're responsible for as well. Everybody feeds off of everybody. We share off of everybody. We learn from everybody. And that influence only makes us better. Now, you bring in somebody who's kind of lackadaisical, who got the Marshawn Lynch approach to life, man. I'm here so I don't get fined.
Just so you don't get fined.
Yeah. You know, you bring that element in, and then it's like, hey, what you doing here, man?
Yeah.
You know, you messing up the feng shui. We got a flow right here. And you were really screwing it up. Like, come on, man. Again, Marshawn Lynch, be about that action, bro. Be about that action. Be about something that is going to make everybody better versus the thing that'll just get you from 9 to 5. Like, if you want the 9 to 5, cool, you can have that, but you ain't gonna have it here because that's not how we do things. We here not from 9 to 5, but from start to finish. You know, that was the measure that we took. So it was knowing your people, knowing their personalities, knowing what's good, what's not. And the same thing goes with your children. My 13-year-old is so even keel. He's very laid back. He's very chill. But you push him in a corner, he turns into a roaring lion. He's vicious. My 7-year-old wears his emotions on the sleeves. You know what's wrong with him when it's happening. He's a very expressive kind of kid. And learning how to deal with both dynamics. I have to be more forceful with my oldest child, where I'm more passive and just instructional with my youngest. And that's just knowing their personalities and how I have to approach dealing with both of them. The ultimate goal is for you guys to get from point A to point B. Motivating you to get from point A to point B looks and feels different. But it takes me screwing it up a couple times to figure that out. And also figuring out that I can be humble and come to you and say, hey, I was wrong. I messed it up. Here's how we're going to go forward. And I give you the credence to check me if I do it wrong. So it builds up a trust dynamic. It builds up a sense in which we have open lines of communication. And if ever you feel that you need support, you need advice, you need to vent, you know I'm a safe space. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to say what you need to do is. I'm going to say, okay, cool. You felt this. You went through this. How did that affect you? What's the plan going forward? Do you have a plan going forward? Okay, let's make one. And then we march it forward from there.
Yeah, that's a pretty good that's some pretty good advice.
Yeah. Took a long time to learn that, man.
Yeah, and shout out to Adam Taylor, project manager at Encore.
Yeah, what up, dude?
Yep. Man, we really had the A team.
Yes. Yeah, we did.
I'm talking about like in Georgia. We had, to this day, we still kind of have the A team. Because you have Adam who's still doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. You're doing your thing. Mike Kotz, he's doing his thing. Shout out to Michael Kotz.
Mm-hmm. And Amber Wade.
Amber, she's doing her thing. Aaron's moving up in the company.
Yeah.
This was all just like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
This is all just like 2 years ago.
And that were bent determined on breaking us up, too.
Yeah. I'm just happy to see how everybody's just progressing.
Yeah, man.
And
that's massive.
That's what this whole podcast is about, just growth
and
how we can achieve that in different ways, whether that be in your personal life, your business life, spiritual life, personal life. Like, how can you grow? Wake up every day to be better than yesterday.
Yeah.
And I've taken that personally. Like, I think you've seen it, like my growth from when I first came in to where I am now, and then seeing the direction in which I'm headed. I've seen it with you. I've seen it with Mike Hart. I've seen it with Adam. I've seen it with Aaron. And it's all inspiring. And I just want to, I just want all of us to be in the same room one day. And just have like a talk on this podcast.
Okay.
Where we just talk about the things we've been through.
Yeah.
And how it helped us to get to where we're at now, and also inspire others not to follow in our footsteps, to do it their way, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But we just want to be the people who inspire them and motivate them,
Mm-hmm.
where they don't just give up. They don't, just show up so that they don't get fined.
Yeah. No Marshawn Lynch's, man.
Right. So that's an integral part. Like that crew
Yeah.
had an integral part in my life. That's probably like the best crew that I've worked with in my entire life.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Crazy.
That is awesome. Man, when we interviewed you, it was me and Mike.
It's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It was a 5-minute interview it was just 2 questions.
Yeah. We looked at, I mean, just that process at the time. You had to do like this video interview. So we looked at the video interview.
I trashed that video interview.
But we looked at you. We looked at like 6 different candidates, I think. And we nailed it down to 2 people. You showed up. And I remember coming in. We did the interview. I remember your video interview. And I said, Mike, there's something about this dude, man. He said, yeah, I think so too. And he said, you think we should take a chance? I was like, yep, I think we should. And that was it. And when your first day, I noticed you have an analytical approach when it comes to things. Like me, I'm sometimes a bull in a china shop. It's like all these things got to be done at this time. I'm a taskmaster, right? So sometimes analysis comes after action, which is not a healthy habit. But I noticed you would come in and you would look at a situation first and you're like, hey, can we do this? Or can we do that? And I think it would make more sense if we did A. And I'm like, in haste of getting things done, I never even thought about it that way. All right, then cool, let's pitch it. Let's see if we can do it. And if we can, cool, we get it done. And that also clued with both me and Mike. It was like, this dude here, he understands way more than we got the impression for. So it's easier for us at this point in time to say, all right, if I need to trust something with someone, I know who I can go to. I know I can go to Adam. I know I can go to Toronto. We got 2 trusted sources right here. So in the event that I need to take my hands off of something, I'm trusting. Y'all got it. That was major, man. It was major. And then, yeah. And then
I never even thought about that.
Yeah, it showed. It showed just in the work that we did at a certain point. Whenever, like the busy seasons that we used to have, it was 19 things happening at once.
Goodness.
So if ever I needed or Mike needed to put attention in a particular place, if you guys were in certain areas, we were like, cool, I ain't worried about it. I know it's going to get done. I know it's going to be right. If something was off, we always got good communication. So it wasn't 18. It was buy-in, because at the end of the day, I think we cared about our collective success more than individual success.
Right. And that's how it should be.
Yeah, yeah. And that goes so far. Like, it even goes to like parental kind of situations. If you're raised by somebody who was selfish, you grow selfish tendencies. You are always looking out for self. And they'll even tell you sometimes, like I got friends that I played ball with who said like their parents or, uncle, whomever was their influence, was like, yo, do you. Go for you. Forget the rest of them dudes. Like, you go out, you shine, you do this, you do that. And it's like, all right, cool. I can't remember who said this, college bad. I think John Calipari said, your name is on the back of the jersey. The only way people know who you are is if they're behind you. When you're facing your competition, everybody is the same. Everybody looks at the front of your jerseys and they see Kentucky. They don't care about what the back says.
Oh, that's crazy. I never looked at it that way.
Yeah. And it hit me that you got some people who are absolute stars in individual situations, which is good. It has its healthy points. But when you're dealing with a family dynamic or when you're dealing with the team dynamic, selflessness is usually the most primary key. And for some people, it's really hard to prioritize others above self. I think within our community, sometimes we have that issue where the priority is me, get mine. When generations ago, it was about the collective. We can't have one person shine and everybody else suffer. One person shines to bring everybody else along with them. Think of Harriet Tubman. Like, how different would life be if she didn't give a crap about anybody else? She found out a way to escape slavery. right? She also, in that process, learned I can take more people with me and we can do more as a collective unit than I can do out here by myself. Worked.
And also, that's what I wanted to do with this podcast, and just the whole concept is basically community based.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a business, and we're gonna touch on that in a minute. I want the community to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk about your strengths, your weaknesses, how you intend to fix those things, how you intend to improve, how you intend to move forward in the business. If you have to make a pivot, how do you intend to do that? And then I would like for the audience to actually give their suggestions.
Okay.
People, there are people who watch these podcasts, who listen to these podcasts, and they're like the heads of banks.
Mm-hmm.
These are influential people in the world.
Yeah.
And nobody's tapping into them. Nobody's asking, what does this person think?
Yeah.
So I want to create an environment where it's a community, where this person can talk to you, even if they don't want to do it through a chat or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
They can reach out to you directly and have this conversation.
Yeah.
If you need a loan and you say, well, finances is the key thing that I'm trying to do with my business, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
There should be somebody who's listening who can help you with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And obviously, like I said, if they don't want to just talk to you in the chat, they can email you directly.
Mm-hmm.
They can call you on your cell phone directly and just have this conversation.
Yeah.
And so it's just people helping people.
Yeah.
That's what this whole thing is about.
Yeah.
Just like how when we worked at the Anacon,
mm-hmm.
we helped each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people gave us the name, the A team. We didn't do that.
Yeah. it wasn't right? Self-promoting at all, man.
But if it was ever, and even when we split up, we still helped each other. You weren't with the company, but I called you for certain things that I didn't know how to do. And you would walk me through that over the phone. Same thing with Adam.
Yeah.
He'd call me or I'd call him. Same thing with Aaron. Same thing with Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Even Eric. Same thing with Eric.
Yeah.
So it's it was a real community up to this day. I can still pick up the phone. Hey, Jason, I don't know how to do this. Let me walk you through my setup, so you can help me understand this.
Yeah. And
you would be willing, no matter what you're doing, even if you got to call me right back.
Yep.
I can expect that call back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm really trying to accomplish. And I think, I don't know how it's going to translate. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this is the very first episode. Congratulations to me.
Round of applause.
Right. But I would like for it to get to that point.
Yeah.
I will do everything in my power to get it to that point, because I don't care if I don't make $1 from this podcast. Mm-hmm. I was never the intention. The intention was to create an outlet for people to help people. Whether a skill, photography, audio visual, somebody needs help, they can reach out to you. You can teach them. You can mentor somebody.
Yeah.
This whole episode is dedicated to mentorship. And although we pivoted to talking about fatherhood and the importance of that, it's still somewhat mentorship.
Yeah.
Your father should be mentoring you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're still in the same stratosphere with what it is that I'm trying to accomplish for this particular episode.
I got you. Yeah, some of the same principles of leadership and mentoring fall into the lines of parenthood. Now, if you think about it, it's parents are mentors to kids, your primary influence in a lot of situations. Think about athletes, right? When somebody is drafted and they're a first round pick, and they ask them, talk about what got you here. Hard work, determination, my family sacrifice, and thank you, mom, thank you, dad, thank you, grandma, thank you, auntie, whomever. People influence them. They mentored them. They helped them get to a certain point. Now, you have physical gifts. There are people, I know people who play street ball to this day, and they are otherworld better than people in the NBA. Hands down.
I believe that.
But they cannot be taught. They cannot be coached. They have the individual skill. Can shoot Steph Curry's lights out, but they can't be coached. Steph Curry is who he is because one, he's freakishly talented, but also when things didn't go in the measure that he wanted them to, he remained teachable, coachable, humble. He won what, 2 championships with Kevin Durant by letting Kevin Durant be the dude. You already the dude, but I'm gonna not be the dude for a minute so that we can keep winning. I get less of me, so collectively we grow.
It was the same thing with D Wade when LeBron came.
Exactly.
The first year they were trying to figure it out. They're like, this is D Wade's team, so it kind of dwarfed LeBron in a way.
Yeah.
And then they just the next year is like, okay, we gotta pick who's gonna lead this team.
And once
we can't have two leaders.
Yeah. And once D Wade said this is Bron's team,
that was it. They won two.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a measure in which you cannot discount how influential leadership is in a situation. There is, like, if you've been in any organizational situation and you've heard the expression, there are too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yes.
There's a reason that hierarchy exists. We need direction. We don't have 50 presidents for a reason. We have a president, 50 governors, different people in different spaces to help govern a collective. That's how structures, hierarchies are set. And where you have lack of leadership, you have issues. There are places all over the world right now who are having tremendous issues. Yeah, major issues, because they just don't have definable leadership. They don't have anybody who's willing to say, hey, what I'm looking for and what I want to attain out of this situation is not as important as everybody collectively moving forward. Because if we collectively move forward, I still get to shine. I still ultimately get what I want. But I get what I want with the support of and backing of this entire collective group of people behind me. So I'm not fighting this battle by myself. Right. Similar situation is what I want to do with my business, which is pivot away from attacking or going after individual gigs, but more so helping the community of photographers, of AV specialists, AVL specialists, just be better. I just want to support you. I don't really want to compete with you over this. It's enough for everybody to eat, for real. But I'm not trying to take anything from you. Ultimately, I'm trying to give you something so that you can be better. And in the same sense, I'm not going to come in this like the alpha dog, like I got all the answers. Nah, I can learn something too. So in this whole process, if I'm helping you in a sense, I'm also trying to learn in another sense. So that when the opportunity presents itself again, I can help someone else. Right. As a community, we all come up. We all eat. We all get better. We all grow a network. And it turns into something that isn't just Jason Dennard LLC, but it's a collective. It's a conglomerate. It's a thing that started kind of like Amazon, selling books out of a garage in Seattle, to being integrated and woven into every fabric of society right now.
Okay, so can you tell us about your business and how far you want to take it?
Yeah. So my business is pivoting right now. So where I was at one point more focused on getting like direct engagement. I want to book the shoots. I want to perform the shoots. I'm doing all the post work or I'm contracting it out to others. I'm in a sense right now where I'm being more supportive of people who are more engaged with pursuing that business. And the thing that I want to do is help people understand that the back end of your business is equally as important and requires as much time as the front end. It's kind of like online dating, right? You set up a profile on an online dating site. People see the best version of you. They get your good side. They only get the good lighting. They don't get the like messy bed head when you wake up. You don't post that on you. No. You don't post your insecurities on there, nothing like that. The same thing goes with business. Your clients don't see when it's 2 a.m, you're dead tired, you can barely keep your eyes up, and you're still trying to get work done. We always put our best foot forward, right? And while things like social media help us to build influences and audiences, the thing that matters most is when you show up. Are you a person of your word? Can you stick to terms? Are you charging something that is within value? I don't want $20 worth of work and you charging me $3,000 for it. I'm also like, I'm not gonna feel bad for saving money, but if you charge me $3,000 worth of work, that should be 30. I'm gonna take $3,000 because I know you're gonna do $30K worth of work. Now, at some point in that process, I'm gonna tell you, hey, you should have charged $30,000 for this, and this is why. I'm not just gonna say, hey, you should do this. I'm going to say you should do this, and this is why. This is where all these things are valued. And if you value your work and your business and your time as much as you say you do, you should implement these strategies so that ultimately this business doesn't kill you. So I'm shifting, being more strategic. My mentor in photography, Ross Knight, when he did this, kind of shocked me. And I was like, Ross, man, we have opportunity to go after this business. You know, this market is still hot. He was like, yeah, it's also really labor intensive, and I'm getting older. I don't want to work that hard no more. I want to get the type of gigs that requires me working less and making more. So he shifted. I was like, okay. So where they do that at? How they do that? Because that's ultimately, I want to get that same thing. Like I want to witness how you do this. So ultimately, I can see how it's done. And when it's time for me to make that pivot, do it myself. But not just do it for me. Help somebody else understand that this can be done for you as well.
Right. Even with my businesses, I'm quickly understanding that the back end takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like to just, because it's more than just setting it up. Mm-hmm. You have to create a flow.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's the next thing. So it's like you have to try to make the experience flawless for the client. Mm-hmm. You're sending an invoice. You're sending a proposal. It needs to go smoothly and easily. Like they just accept it, they're able to read it, they're able to sign it, send it back. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be like where you send them a proposal and then they have to print it, then they have to sign it, then they have to upload it again and then send it back to you. It's too much work. So you try to figure out how to do things in the most flawless way for the client. Mm-hmm. You want to make it as easy as possible for them to make a decision to book you, essentially.
Right. This is not an ad for Adobe, okay? Not an ad for Adobe. But for, I think $4.99 or $5.99 a month, you can get Adobe Acrobat Pro.
Yep.
Acrobat Pro, I do all of my invoicing. I allow e-signatures, everything, contracts. It's all in there. It's all DocuSign. It costs me, just because some add-ons, $10 a month. For a client to look at something, click the link. Okay, this is what we agreed to. These are the terms. All right, so I just click and sign it. Yep. You click and sign, boom, it's done. I got it. We're in agreement. We're on the contract. Here's the link to pay your deposit. So I just hit this button. Yep. Click. Shows up in the account. Work. It's done. That's how it rolls.
For now, I'm using QuickBooks. Mm-hmm. And I have Adobe Acrobat just if, they need signatures and stuff like that. But I want to, get to a point where it looks better.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look standard, Mm-hmm. It's the standard invoice. Yeah. And then you just have your logo in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah.
So eventually, as things start to flow a little better, I want to just upgrade and get, like a better proposal. Mm-hmm. Like a look.
Yeah. Something
that connects the invoice to me or to the company where they look at it and they're like, ooh.
Yeah.
Before they even see the money. Mm-hmm. Like, I got to sell them the company before they even see how much they got to spend.
Yeah.
Pro tip, by the way.
Yeah. I sat in this, it was something, panel discussion. I remember a photographer named Peter Hurley. Look up his Instagram, Peter_Hurley. He talked about his business. All Peter Hurley does is headshots, right? He has made a brand off of headshots. And he said he was sitting with a client once, or it was either he or another photographer. They were sitting with a client. The client was looking through this lookbook, and he's sitting with a couple. The guy sees the look in his woman's eyes, and she's looking at him like, "Oh my God, I love it." And he was like, "Cool, I got it." So I don't have to say a word.
It's the work. This is the work you put in before you even send them that quote.
She saw something
where they're determined at that point. They've already made up their mind.
Yeah.
Like it's so much work that you have to do to get to that point.
Yeah.
Like people don't understand that. They think it's just put out a few demos and
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
people just like it, but you have to go beyond. You have
Yeah.
to go above and beyond because you're trying to not just attract that person, you're trying to sell it to them before they even bought it.
Yep. Yep. And his whole thing with that was she's looking at old stuff, but she sees herself in what I've already done. And now she wants to create her own mark so that this ultimately, she don't know, but this ultimately is going to sell me other business down the road.
Yep.
But she sees herself in stuff that I've already done. So I don't have to sell her anything at this point. I can tell her the cat gonna take pictures and she'll be fine with it. What she wants is the result. She sees the result. She saw herself in this book. Her dude there with her probably didn't want to pay it, but when I sent them that invoice, they sent me money, and they got the result they wanted. But they all came beforehand. It wasn't a hey, trust me with this. Nah, you see the trust factor. It's right here, demonstrated. It's in your hands. It's tangible.
Yeah.
You know what this can be. It's a matter of whether or not you want to invest in it or not.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give everybody some value tips in how to sell to a client before they're even your client. The first thing is pictures and videos. They need to know what they're getting before they have gotten it. So if you're a photographer, you need to take different styles of pictures, highlighting your work, and you need to explain how you can provide value to that customer before they're even your customer. And you need to be able to do that using social media and stuff, outlets like that, whether you're sending cold emails, things like that. So now you have the pictures, you have the videos, and then you have the explanation. Now, in terms of the explanation, you can either make a video talking about what it is exactly you do and how you do it, or you can send that in a cold email, you can send that in a cold call. But ultimately, the two main things should be the visual aspect of it and what they can understand from your description. So that's two huge tips as it relates to selling to a client before they're even your client, because they're gonna run to you.
Make it
They've
clear.
already made up their mind. If they reached out to you, they've already made up their mind that they want you to do whatever it is that you do.
For real.
At that point, the only thing you're doing is basically assuring them that you are going to do this the way you said you were going to.
Yeah.
And you would have your business every time.
Yep.
So yeah, that's two pro tips.
Yeah. Preach.
But this is the final question.
Okay.
Well, it's two more questions.
Okay.
But the final question as it relates to what we're talking about. If you had to say one final thought on this whole podcast episode, we already know that you gave the message to fathers. But if you had to just give a bar to summarize this whole podcast episode and how it helps you or how it should help the people who are watching, what would it be?
Know that somebody is watching, but also know that the work you're doing goes beyond you. At some point in time, Jason Dennard LLC is going to fall. I know. And it depends on whether or not, somebody wants to buy it out, my kids want to take it on, or, I come up with a strategic partner, they take it, whatever. I want to ensure that the impact that I have continues to live well beyond a business name and a filing with the Secretary of State. I want to know that every environment I went in, every client I worked with, every person that I partnered with on a project walked away from this experience with me feeling better, even if it's just a little bit, feeling better than they did before I showed up. We have a mutual friend, Ashley, and Ashley and I worked together.
Shout out to Ashley.
Yeah. Shout out. Hey, Ashley and Kevin. Y'all are awesome. We worked maybe 6 months, maybe. But the from introduction to the time that I left, I could tell Ashley has, first of all, this level of ownership with the work that she does. She's very, very, very diligent. But there was this trusting element that developed between the two of us.
Yes.
So it got to a point where she kind of had the same trust that we had with you. I don't have to think about this because you got it. You take it just as seriously as I do, so I know it's not going to be flawed. And if something's off, then you'll reach out to me to fix it. So there was an insane level of trust. So when Ashley, the day I left, I remember her giving me a hug, and she said, "You made my life so much easier."
I think I was there that day.
Okay.
Your last day was my first day.
Okay, yeah. So I remember her saying that, and I remember thinking, mission accomplished. Cool. I can walk now. One, my dude's here. He's going to carry this on. Second, the thing that I came in here to accomplish worked. I didn't come here to take anything over. I don't want to implement anything that nobody wants. I came in here to be supportive of a brand and the vision that was already in place. So if I was able to help that be a percentage point better than when I got here, mission accomplished. I'm good. I can walk away with peace. I can walk away knowing that I gave it everything that I had. And out of my everything, this thing became something better.
So basically, it's just leaving your mark, leaving a legacy on everybody you've ever had contact with.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah. And a legacy of positivity, a legacy of excellence, a legacy of positive influence. Wherever you have influence, it can either be good or bad. The athletic demonstration or example here, you have a person who plays on Team A, and Tara Owens is a perfect example of this. What folks in San Francisco said, "Oh, he's a pariah. He's not a good teammate. He performs well, but then he goes to Dallas, and the experience in Dallas starts great. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you don't really fit the vibe here." He goes to Philly, and the people in Philly said, "Oh, he might not have the same capability, but his heart, his energy, that he gives 100% every play. He teaches people around him how to be better. Dude is the ultimate teammate. He might not give me 200 catches and 1,500 yards a season anymore, but he is going to block somebody when they're coming from my blind side. He is going to show this person how to not go through the A gap, go through the B gap when you see this alignment." That's his influence. And that has trickled down, not just from Tara Owens, but to the main influential wide receiver in the NFL right now. If you've been an A1 receiver in the NFL, most of them have worked with Tara Owens. He's the pariah. He's the bad guy. He's the terrible influence. But the people who are making $200 million right now learn from that guy.
I don't think he was a bad guy in the sense. I think he had more of the same drive and attitude as Jordan did.
Yeah.
Jordan was an acquired taste.
Yeah.
And his greatness showed, and at the time, it just happened to be the very top tier of talent.
Yeah.
But if he was just an average guy with the same attitude, he would have been in the same shoes as Terrell Owens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think I don't think Terrell Owens was in a place and given enough opportunities for him to show that maybe he could have been like the Jordan of football.
Yeah.
Right? Because they just kept moving him. And so many wide receivers are living vicariously through him.
Yeah.
That people have no clue about.
Yeah. And I'm not speaking ill of Terrell Owens because I love him. I loved his game, and I also loved his attitude. But in certain places, who said this? Alvin Kamara, who plays for the Saints, said when he was getting drafted, he would have been selected earlier. But the owner or GM or somebody asked him about his nose piercing and said, "Hey, you want to take that out?" And he was like, "No." He was like, "Well, we'll pick you. We'll give you this. We'll give you that." He was like, "You don't want me to be me. So no, I'm not going to play for you." It turns out he didn't need him. He's doing just fine in New Orleans. But the idea that Terrell didn't fit the narrative for someone made him a villain.
Right.
If you look at everywhere that he had influence, it was positive. Dude was a winner. He performed. He excelled everywhere. No matter the circumstance, he always found a way to excel. But because he didn't fit certain narratives or certain ideals, then people looked at him like, oh, he's an issue. I don't necessarily buy into that. Sometimes you're in a space, use an analogy that my home church pastor says, you're on the right bus but in the wrong seat. You need to find your seat. Wherever that seat is on this collective bus, find your seat. Find a place that you can be the best, that you can be you, that you don't have to sacrifice morals or standards or anything to excel and be your best. Find that space and live it. Because whatever's in that space, that's for you. That's for you. You're going to get it. But if you're trying to live your best life through the lens and eyes and capabilities of somebody else, is never, ever going to work. At some point in time, you're going to hit a failure. So bet on yourself. Put that money on yourself and your capability, your skill set, your zone, before you try to put too much energy into discounting what somebody else is already doing well.
That was a lot of value. Final question.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years. I work for a great organization right now. So I see myself probably still working for that organization, but probably in a different role. I see myself mentoring more. I see myself consulting more. A friend of mine just moved to Charlotte this week. He's a pastor, and he's starting at this new church. And before he left, we hung out for a little while, and we just shared experiences. We worked together in 2 different instances. And we said, man, with the spaces that we've been and the experiences that we've had, we should do more to teach people how to do certain things within ministry better. If you're not aware, church ministry works just like any other business, except, the end result is relationship with Jesus and not profit margin for some people. Asterisk. But just being real, some folks just aren't great. But yeah, we thought about, like, he's been an administrator in 3 different places. I've been from support roles to director roles to management roles to bottom of the barrel in several different places. And the experience of having my own business, already doing some consulting, I thought, like, man, we could really, really help to influence not just individual businesses, but communities. Like, the space that I work, I'm the stark minority, but I'm in a position of influence. And that doesn't have anything to do with my education level, my skin color. It has to do with the fact that this is my seat on that bus. And this is what I was determined to do. So I have to give my 100% best, even when it's not 100%. If all I got is 80, I'm going to give you 80. But I'm going to give you the best of whatever I got. Because the eyes, the ears, the measure of influence of this space depends on whether or not I give 100% or not. And you'll never ever have an instance in which you will look at me and say, Jay, half-ass that. He didn't really give 100%. Never. I'm going to give you everything that I got with every instance. And if I can't, I'm going to be upfront with you and tell you that I don't have it that day. But that's ultimately where I want to see myself in a few years. That was a long way around that question, but yeah. Where
We're just soaking it up.
Yeah.
We're just soaking it up.
Where I see myself in a couple of years is being in a space in which I can just help influence leaders, influence mentors, be mentored, but share knowledge from different experiences that I've had with others who are seeking that same experience or something similar, so that they can be their best selves.
It's crazy because, I've asked that question to a lot of people, and the answer I get is nowhere remotely close to that. it's always, I want to grow my business to six figures. I want to make my first million. Yeah, it's never really, I want to mentor and be mentored. So to hear that was very inspiring. Thank you again for being on the show.
For sure.
I think you provided a lot of value, like a lot. Maybe it went over some people's heads. Yeah, like I've learned a lot from this podcast. Not just about what it is you want to accomplish in your life, but I've learned a lot about you as a person. Stories I haven't heard before.
Yeah,
and I've known you for a while.
Yeah, yeah, man.
And I think it's vice versa as well. But I would love to hear more about the mentorship aspect from you. Maybe we could schedule a part 2 some other date.
Yeah,
in
let's
the future.
Let's do it.
But this was very informative, and I think this was something that everybody needed to hear. By the way, I had like a whole bunch of questions to ask him, and I only asked him like 3. I think I had like 16 questions, and I only asked him 3, and then we just kind of just changed it out.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be scripted. I just don't want this to be scripted. This podcast, I want it to be, wherever the chips may fall.
Yeah, natural, let it flow.
Like, we just want to have candid conversations and things that help people. Again, thank you. Jason Towns, you leave your tags, like your social media tags, and it's Jason Dennard Photography.
Jason Dennard Photo.
Jason Dennard Photo.
Dennard. Jason Dennard Photo. Email me, jasondennardphoto@gmail.com, jasondennard.com, Instagram, Twitter, Jason Dennard Photo.
Thank you again, and that's it.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Method and Thought podcast. Our guest, Jason Towns, really gave a lot of value and perspective into the topic of mentorship. Method and Thought is much more than just a podcast about growth, but was created primarily for you, the listeners, creating a community of like-minded people helping others within the community. Please visit methodandthought.com for everything from podcast episode extras to blog posts and a business directory highlighting companies that take great care of their clients and also supports the podcast. You can also subscribe, follow, like, comment, and listen to us on all of your favorite social media platforms, as well as on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many of your favorite podcast destinations. Thank you for listening. See you soon.